this. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Nerd Week Live here on, or from, Nerd Caliber, your friends in the convention, cosplay, nerdy scene, etc. Looks like our bumper is still up, so let me get that changed. There's us. Look at that. Sorry once again for the issues and the slight delay. At least it was only 4 minutes and not 23, and we came to you with actual working YouTube stuff. I know there's a technical term for that, and I'm not going to bother with it because who knows. Anyway, so let's start with the introductions. As always, I'm Rodney Brown. I'm the editor-in-chief of Nerd Caliber. I'm also first-person shooter, the photographer there on Facebook and other kinds of places. And let's see, we have, this time we're actually going to start with Mr. Blue Wall. If you would introduce yourself, sir.
Moi.
You, vous.
Yes. Hi, everyone. It's Luis Correa, also known as Crash the Photos. That's my photography page. I like to play a lot of Steam games, so Crash the Stampede if you want to join me. I'm hooked on that WoW buzz right now, so you can come check me out on Bloodhoof as the demon hunter known as the Edge Lord. That's LAWD for some of y'all from Boston area. We're gonna
Lord.
have a great show tonight, so I'm looking forward to having some wonderful conversations with you in the chat when you guys chime in. So feel free to just throw them opinions out at us.
So while we're doing that, let me just check one thing. Let me see whether or not my preview stream, I don't have the audio on that. I'm hearing us. And, oh, there we go. That might be me. I just turned my audio off. Okay. Now we're going back. Introduce yourself, Mr. Class 1A. Ah,
Woo!
very
Plus
good.
Ultra. Hello,
Very
hello. 5D0 here. Contributing writer, social media specialist for Nerd Caliber. I also do movie reviews. Got a little side project called the Week Trash Can Podcast where we review anime. We talk about anime culture. I'll post a link in the chat.
Cool, cool. And folks, thank you already for those of you who've joined us in the chat. Happy Halloween, although it's a smidge early, for Ryan, who said that. Hack, welcome. First time in a live chat. This is awesome. I'm glad you like it. Hopefully you like it. So we're going to start with our first topic. And our first topic is the show that has that wonderful person in it right there. Series of Unfortunate Events, Season 3 released the first images from the season to Entertainment Weekly, of course, because that's where they like to release these things, and pretty much everybody gets those, or everybody gives them to Entertainment Weekly. Count Olaf there, and we also, actually the only two that were high enough resolution to actually show you anything is both of Count Olaf. Neil Patrick Harris doing his best really high forehead work. So it looks awesome. It is the final season. The show producer Barry Sonnenfeld says that it's going to be like the most action-packed and the most emotional. And we don't know when it's coming out, but based on the early year releases of season 1 and season 2, it's likely that it's going to be sometime in winter or early spring of 2019. So look sharp. Go to the EW website to check out the rest of the photos because there's some really cool and weird-looking stuff, including a very Ursula-looking lady. And I'm not really sure who she is or what that's all about. Anybody here watching this? I have not yet.
That's Count Olaf's woman there.
Oh, that's Count.
She's a fashionista, and interesting story about that outfit. When you go take a look at the photo, is they were so committed to making that thing look tentacly that they actually created like inflatable tentacles around the dress to keep it upright and give it that 3D look, as opposed to just floppy tentacles that would just hang down.
Going the extra mile. I like it.
Very do that.
Cool.
I mean, I enjoyed the first season substantially. I need to go back to the books at some point. I'm definitely looking forward to see how this story all wraps up. Because There are a lot of twists and turns. There was a lot more lore that was introduced in this series than in what I've seen elsewhere. So Neil Patrick Harris has done a great job as the character Count Olaf too. This is going to be an exciting climax.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I just, again, even though I haven't seen it, just the images when I did the search, like, does he have like 4 costume changes every episode or something? He's in so many different looks, including one that looks remarkably like a Doctor Horrible, which is kind of surprising.
One or two per episode usually.
Yeah, it's like every arc, like it's like ongoing gimmick in the books. He has a different disguise.
A good question for you guys out there who are in the chat: have you seen the movie version? Do you prefer Jim Carrey over Neil Patrick Harris? Like, because I kind of saw both, and it's really tough, to be honest. Like, you can see the craziness with Jim Carrey, but Neil Patrick Harris has had more time. 2 seasons going on 3, and you actually see, like, for me, a more diverse selection of what the character Count Olaf is about, which I thought was amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see what the chat people in the chat say. I haven't seen either. Again, just based on the images, it kind of looks to me like Patrick Harris pulls off more of a menace look and a little bit less of the goofy look that obviously is the trademark of anything Jim Carrey does.
Well, I mean, yeah, Count Olaf is like he's half and half of that. He's menacing to these children, but he's also like you're also not necessarily meant to take him super serious. Like
That's true.
Yeah, he's a cartoon villain. He's Snidely Whiplash.
With worse hair. All right, folks, moving on to our next topic, and I am just really thrilled about this announcement. That there is Alan Tudyk. That's Wash from Firefly. That's K2SO from Rogue One. That's King Candy from Wreck-It Ralph. He has been named, yes, he has been named as the voice of the Joker in the upcoming DC Universe Harley Quinn animated series. And I gotta say, I'm absolutely thrilled with this. He has done a couple of turns as a really scary bad guy. One in the series Dollhouse, one of Joss Whedon's series, as the very first big bad guy through the first season, and then recurring at a couple of points. The very first character created in the Dollhouse, so his name is Alpha. And again, as basically a hitman in Justified, where he was fantastic for the 1.5 episode he was in. But I'm so pumped for this. For whatever issues I might have with Kaylee Cuoco as the voice of Harley Quinn, and I don't really. I mean, I would like to see her with. We've discussed this in earlier episodes of this show. I'd like to see her, Harley Quinn, with more of the Tara Strong sort of New York, Brooklyn type accent, as opposed to Kaylee Cuoco.
Or here's a crazy idea: hire Tara Strong to play her.
Well, yeah, but they've already hired Kaylee Cuoco, and honestly, she's funny.
Yeah.
She's certainly got the comedy chops.
And realistically, like, trust me, I love my favorites. You need to diversify your favorites, because if you give work to just the same person over and over again, then it grows stagnant. Like, I agree that it'd be cool to hear her Jersey, New Yorkish type accent, but also, she brings her own spin to it, and that's part of the point of being a voice actor.
Yeah.
The other thing about this, and I didn't know this, even though we covered this, that Batman's voice is going to be Diedrich Bader.
Ooh.
I like Diedrich Bader a lot. I'm having a hard time. I'm anticipating that if he does a sort of a rough, growly voice, all I'm going to be able to hear is Rex Kwon Do. That's it's just
Did you not watch Brave the Bold?
Yeah. Well, yes, that's true. Good point. And that didn't come through for me there. That's so. Maybe I won't. But if he says grab the wrist, break it, I'm done. I'm done. But It's a great voice cast. In addition to those people and Alan Tudyk. My God, you know, what an absolute wonderful get. I didn't realize he was the voice of Sonny in iRobot.
Oh wow.
Now that I hear that or think about that and K2SO, yeah, I get it. They're kind of the same voice, but I mean, obviously his voice talents are fantastic. So, looking forward to some menace from Alan.
Absolutely.
And CC Moonstar, happy early Halloween to you as well.
Woo.
Spooky. Moving on to something that is not spooky, although kind of could be, I guess. I don't know. So this is a still from. Nobody remembers this because I'm the only one here old enough to remember it. The original Star Trek the Animated Series cartoon that was on TV in between the original series and I think it might have been before the motion picture.
So I feel like you definitely are the oldest one here, but I have seen this in my younger days because they do reruns
Oh, that's
of
true.
things.
That's true.
Yeah, you may have seen the original run, but we did. Yeah, Lewis and I were old enough to experience it when it was on in rerun form.
Okay, all right. So the news is that there's going to be another Star Trek animated series. This is going to be on CBS All Access, where Star Trek Discovery is, and it is going to be a comedy series called Lower Decks, written by one of the chief writers of Rick and Morty.
Oh God.
Yeah. I'm not.
Yeah, like, please tell me there'll be red shirt jokes aplenty.
Well, I would think so. So first, the guy who's writing it, this Rick and Morty writer, whose name is something McMahon, Mike McMahon. He's such a Star Trek nut that back in 2011, he created a Twitter channel, Twitter account that posted fake The Next Generation plots. And I remember seeing this a couple of years ago. He still was running it a couple of years ago. Maybe still running now. And they're just hilarious. You know, it's like...
See, my only thing with that is like I've always enjoyed Star Trek being serious with just a tiny bit of humor. Because if I wanted Star Trek the comedy series, then I'd go watch the Orville.
And the article that I'm looking at makes that point, that the Orville already exists, so do we need this? Well, I don't know. I don't know if we need it. I might want it.
I mean, it's definitely something to be there to watch. I don't know if I'll like it. I'll give it a shot, though. I give everything a shot at least once.
I'll give it a go.
Yeah, I'll definitely give it a go. The fact that this guy is a writer on Rick and Morty tells me that this is probably not going to be comedy like the Orville. So I'm really hoping that that's the case. Nice hand there. Anyway, this probably will debut next year. There is, again, no information on exactly when it will happen or who the animation studios is doing it, but it's a done deal. You know, CBS's All Access is going to be the home for this.
I would say at the very least they should at least keep something that resembles the animation style of the original animated series if they want to get good laugh.
I would like it to not look like Rick and Morty.
Yes. Agreed.
If only because it would look like Rick and Morty.
You're asking a lot here, both of you. You want it to not be like Rick and Morty, and you want it to be basically C-Lab 2121.
Well, that's exactly what it would look like. Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
Maybe they'll come up with something new. Maybe it says animated, doesn't say that it's not going to be CGI. Maybe it'll all be like Star Trek Rebels or Star Wars Rebels. Star Trek Rebels, that would be interesting. Anyway, moving on from that to from the maybe ridiculous to, or the maybe sublime to the certainly ridiculous, or from the ridiculous to the ridiculous. That is not the show SEAL team. That isn't a clip from Call of Duty. That is a frame from the upcoming Monster Hunter movie. And they put out a bunch of early images, and it is all these folks in these special forces-esque military camo combat gear uniforms in a desert hunting something. There is nothing in this that looks remotely like Monster Hunter.
Okay, I'm gonna preempt this real quick because I heard the clicker noise coming from Byron. In some of the articles that I've read, it explicitly states that these special force people fall through a dimensional rift into another world. We haven't seen any imagery of this other world or what they do there, or if they use any of the weaponry from the game or interact with any characters. There has been mention of characters from the Monster Hunter universe. So I'm going to assume that at one point or another, Call of Duty falls into Land of the Lost, and this whole thing happens.
Okay, and in fact, in the article, it does say they will meet characters from the game, like the Admiral. So I don't play the game. I'll assume you know who that is. All right, Byron, you're looking to explode. What's going on here?
Okay, so I've made my opinion on Paul W.S. Anderson's catalog of work very clear at different points in my career as a movie reviewer. But first of all, they're pulling the another world trope. First of all, it's like, why? Why do we gotta do this? Why not? This isn't 1990. This isn't 1989. We don't have to do this anymore, you guys. We don't have to do this, and it's like I get it, Paul. You love your wife. You want her to be a big star.
Now, just Mia Jovovich is Paul W.S. Anderson's wife, and she was in all the Resident Evil movies, which he directed, and she is in this. So, just in case anybody didn't know what you're referring to.
Yeah. She's like every big action movie that he's done in the past decade, she's been in. The Musketeers, Ultraviolet. He can't do a movie without it being a love letter to Mila. And this looks to be no different.
I mean, they married, so.
Okay, well, hey, if it's the only work she can get. So if it turns out that is the case, I don't have a problem with the. I know you were going to say isekai because that's you're an anime guy.
Yeah, I was going to say isekai. I was trying to keep saying that, but yeah, it's
the another world sort of going into another world trope. I don't have a problem with that, and it's maybe lazy, but it's also convenient in that you don't have to set up the entire backstory of the characters and their universe when you've got somebody from this world where you can assume what their backstory is and what their universe is like, and then they just fall into this other one. That was one of my problems with World of Warcraft, the movie, is that unless you were an experienced Warcraft or World of Warcraft player or fan, you knew almost nothing about the backstory except the exposition, which was killing, that they told you about what all of these people were. And it came across, because of that, as just this gigantic wet kiss to the Warcraft fandom. If they did the same thing with Monster Hunter, it would sort of come across as just this, I don't get what's going on, but the Monster Hunter fandom must be loving the hell out of this sort of movie. Where it's like, hi, here's this hero who just sort of sprung up, and there's this. By having people coming from this world, you go, okay, they're soldiers. We can take that and just go with it.
Yeah.
I mean, it worked so well for Battleship.
It worked. It worked to fantastic effect in Stargate.
Well, yeah, it worked fantastically in Stargate. And who knows? This may work like the Jumanji sequel.
That too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting, but like, I understand your perspective, Byron, but also understand that like gamers aren't the only people who watch movies. So like, they have to make this accessible to people who don't watch this stuff, who don't play this stuff, and who don't understand this stuff. If you make a movie completely, as not to reiterate what Rodney just said, but if you make a movie completely 100% about this lore, there's going to be a large section of people who just won't even give it a chance, and that's not what you want. You want to have people give it a chance.
Yeah.
And now, having said that, all the Marvel movies are about the Marvel lore and nothing else. But then again, there's probably a much, much deeper base there than there is with Monster Hunter, as popular as that game is.
Yeah, it's a very popular, and it's made a lot of money over the years, but it's still very much a niche compared to Marvel
Yeah.
Comics, which is literally everywhere and referenced in so many things. Like, if you can find me like a ton of references for Monster Hunter and just day to day, whereupon Marvel, you will have like a ton of references to Iron Man, Captain America is like literally everywhere. He's a damn flag. Like,
Yeah, I guess I'm going to fall down sort of in between you. I have absolutely no expectation because it's a Paul W.S. Anderson movie that it will be anything other than pretty much garbage eye candy. Uh, but because of what you're saying about how it's potentially going to actually look like and deal with characters from the Monster Hunter game, then maybe that will make it interesting enough to offset that. So I'll fall right down in the middle. There we go. How's that for riding that fence rail?
Do you, man? Do you? I'm just my only main thing is was was there really such were there really that many people in the world clamoring for this movie to come into fruition?
no, there's a lot of investors clamoring to make money.
Exactly.
And here's the thing. What's funny is you knock that director, which rightly so. You knock that director for doing these type of things, but he makes money off of these like conversion adaptation things. Like Resident Evil, like a lot of people are just like these Resident Evil movies are shit. But I guarantee you that if I talk to all your friends, they're all like, "Man, Resident Evil 3 was shit," but they watched it. They watched
It's
it
with
either when it
Transformers.
came out or they watched it when it was streaming, but they watched it. And that's the point, is to get people to watch and generate that money.
Yep.
It's the same thing with Transformers. People talk about how bad they are, but as the great sage Michael Bay put it, you're still gonna watch it.
Great Sage. Ugh. Which, by the way, is a character in the that slime anime. The time I got reincarnated as a slime.
But
I was wondering, why does that reference sound familiar? Oh, there we go. So moving on to our next topic. Um,
don't bring
that
good isekai into this.
that is a wonderful image from the upcoming re-release of Deadpool 2, which is coming out in December, where they are re-releasing it as a PG-13 movie, and which we've sort of talked about before. The news is that they actually went back and they filmed a bunch of stuff, some stuff. They're being very canny about whether or not it's a bunch, or whether it's just this framing device where they are framing it with this sort of recreation of the Princess Bride scene. Um, but based on what Ryan Reynolds has said, with saying, "quote," a bunch of the team got back together, it sounds like there are actually other scenes. So there will be a fair amount of new content to fill in. Well, basically all of the ultra violence and swearing that they're going to have to cut out to get it to be PG-13.
Not a whole lot because it's PG-13.
Well, it's true. It's not G or PG. Well,
Yeah,
do they even have a PG
PG-13
anymore?
is PG-13 is more like, I'm gonna stab you in the chest, but there's no blood coming out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
here's all these bullet holes. There's no blood there. We just assume that there's ketchup packets somewhere on that body.
You might get a hell before you get a F bomb.
Yeah. Now, here's the interesting thing, and I don't know that this would be a concern for changing the rating, But with David Leitch as the director and Ryan Reynolds with all his support, I guarantee that things that will not be cut out will be references to his fluid sexuality or references to Negasonic Teenage Warhead's lesbian status. I guarantee those will stay right in there.
I
Because
mean,
Reynolds wouldn't do it if that was the case.
yeah, and I think I think that's great because that shit is not rated R. That's normal life. That's
Exactly.
normal everyday life. That doesn't affect anybody except the people who are in it.
Exactly. The December 19th, 21st. This movie is coming out, and so you will get to see December 21st. Apparently, there is a rumor that it will be called The Deadpool Before Christmas,
Oh,
which would
geez.
be awesome. But I can't guarantee. It's just a rumor. They haven't announced yet. All right. Speaking of movies and Hollywood, and I don't know, why this is being made. Well, again, money. Attack on Titan, folks. There's another live action version coming, and guess what? It's not being made in Japan. It's being made as a Hollywood retake, reimagining, whatever they like to call those things now. Good news? Question mark? Is that the director is Andy Muschietti, who was the director on It and the upcoming sequel, It Chapter 2. So it might be good.
I mean, I guess I'll be honest in that like I kind of fell off on Attack on Titan after I think it was the second season. There's only so much of that like let's just do something for like 3 episodes, but not do anything at all kind of shit that I just get over. After a while, I'm just like I don't need human Piccolo doing that shit. I had enough of it with Big O. That's where I drew the line. So,
Yeah, no, I agree about Attack on Titan. I lost it after season 2. In fact, I don't even know if I made it all the way through season 2. There's only, like you said, only so many times you can watch somebody get frozen in panic, who shouldn't be, but even if they are, and then die yet again, but have it take 3 episodes to happen. Like, but anyway, so your point is, so you were starting to make a point about the movie before you said you fell off the train.
oh yeah. I mean, I feel like I would watch the movie purely because the movies tend to mash everything together and speed it up, which for me that's fantastic because I'd rather have everything condensed into 2 hours instead of like 3 years of my life, and and it is a pedigree director behind it, so I mean there's a good idea that there might be something really like workable there because Attack on Titan isn't terrible. It's not a terrible show. It has a great dynamic to it. There's a lot there in the scripts or in the story that goes on in the manga itself. So I don't see why you can't just like adapt it and condense a lot of it into a movie. Will you condense everything? No, not at all.
Well, you
But
couldn't in a 2-hour movie.
you'll condense a good chunk of it, and it might bring people into reading what it is. And then we have Death Note. But
Yeah. So Byron, as our resident anime fan,
Okay, I mean, Japan tried it, didn't work out so well. Um, I'm like you guys, I kind of fell off after a while with, I didn't even make it to the second season. I started reading the manga, and what I got was the same feeling I get from Walking Dead, where I want to know about the mysteries of the threats to this world, not so much about the human drama. And after so many chapters of this being about the politics of the world and me just getting bored with it, when I'm still trying to figure out where these behemoth people eaters are coming from, and how one of them's fighting for humanity and we're still not any closer, I kind of just said screw it.
Yeah, it's if you love that, and there are people who do, they love the drama, the interpersonal drama. All the Levi fans out there, they just can't get enough of him. Then you're probably going to watch this. Like Lewis said, I'm probably going to watch it just because it'll be interesting to see what the take is. But as Lewis indicated, there's a track record out there, folks. Death Note. um, I don't
Fist
know.
of the North Star.
Did they make a U.S. version of Fist of the North Star? Okay. Um,
I printed from my memory, but I can never forget it.
uh, Dragon Ball, whatever it was, Dragon Ball Supreme, Dragon Ball. What was the movie?
There was a Dragon Ball movie.
The Dragon Ball movie. Yeah, the one that
Dragon
the one that you're trying not to remember.
Evolution.
Evolution. Thank you. Dragon Ball
yeah.
Evolution.
Nope.
That was a Hollywood make with Western actors of a classic anime tale, as was Death Note, the Netflix version, and there's not going to be any difference really from the Attack on Titan. It's going to be an Americanized version of this story. What that turns into, who knows? And again, if they keep the excitement and then crush it down into 2 hours, maybe I'll watch it.
I mean, again, going back to what I said, Japan tried this and they couldn't get it right. So,
Well, true.
yeah, I mean, they couldn't even get Gotcha Man right.
But again, they have gotten some things right. Uh,
Maybe Hollywood will surprise us.
let's hope. Let's hope. So moving on to the next topic, this is that right there, folks, is Mark Waid. Mark Waid is, of course, a famous comics book writer. Mark Waid is also named in a lawsuit being brought by the head of the Comicsgate movement, the misogynistic moron that is leading the Comicsgate movement, where he is, and we talked about this before, he is suing both a publisher and Waid for blocking his publication of a comic book that he had originally had a deal in place with this publisher. Waid made comments to the publisher about this man's history as a Comicsgate leader on Twitter, and the publisher subsequently pulled the book. Mark Waid, what the story is here is Mark Waid has created a crowdfunding campaign. Kickstarter? No, not Kickstarter. Obviously, that would make fun.
GoFundMe.
Yeah. Created a GoFundMe campaign to raise funds for his legal defense against Richard C. Meyer, who is the one who is suing Waid and the publisher Antarctic Press. So I really hope this GoFundMe goes insane. He gets a ton of money. He doesn't have to dip into his pockets at all. And basically, the lawsuit gets Richard C. Meyer broken and sent to a poorhouse. But that's just my opinion.
I mean, it's a very valid opinion. The guy's a piece of shit, and the people who support him, largely piece of shit. And they fall into two kind of categories of the nutty piece of shit, and then the ultra firm pieces of shit. The nutty ones, they'll support anything as long as you say anti-SJW attached to it in any capacity, or you say things like feminism, anything like that. Those are the people that'll just froth at the mouth to throw money at it. And then you get the firm pals who are just like, let me consider this, but I'm going to support this anyways because it goes against whatever stupid ass values that I have that are anti against anything, because we all know that these guys who refer to everyone as snowflakes are the most snowflakey people in the world.
Oh no! You also forgot the fence straddlers who were just like, who see both sides as having valid points when clearly there is a side that is wrong, but because you don't want to rock, they don't want to rock the boat.
I left them out purely because they don't ever. Those people are the cheapest people ever, and they fence rag because they don't want to be involved in any capacity.
True.
Yeah, I don't want to be seen as someone who is encouraging you to go out and actually give your hard-earned money to anybody, but I do want to encourage anybody who is of the mind to support Mark Wade to at least look at the GoFundMe campaign and consider whether or not you want to help him in his legal defense against misogynistic, idiotic scumbags.
Right on.
Yeah.
Which was kind of more of like one of our ending, could we please or could we not? But we'll call this the appropriate thing. We'll call it a news story because it is a news story,
It is. It's an important one too.
and it is an important one. And I really hope that this, stick it to him, Richard Myers. I want you in the poorhouse if we had poorhouses. Not that we should go back to them. That's kind of a Trumpian way to look at it. But so moving on to our last topic, and we've had a quick show here tonight, folks, because we didn't have a ton of topics, and I got our problem solved within 4 minutes. So, and that is the end of that gentleman right there on The Simpsons. It's been reported, and I haven't seen an actual final confirmation of this. It has been reported that The Simpsons will be cutting out Apu Nahasapima Pedalan.
Very
Pretty,
nice.
Hey.
that's pretty good. You got it.
I got that right. From the show, starting at some point in the future. I think we all know why. Well, we don't know why this decision was made. We know what the impetus behind it was. It was the controversy that Hank Azaria has been doing the voice of an Indian American for 19 seasons. And Hank Azaria is clearly not of South Asian descent. So there was a lot of controversy about them changing that voice actor. And apparently it looks like they've decided not to change the voice actor, but to just get rid of the character.
Yeah. So this is kind of tough. This is actually a really good topic to discuss, I think, because I'm definitely on board with getting a more diverse cast and having someone who can voice Apu. There's also numerous characters in the 30 plus seasons of Simpsons that have had similar instances. I'm trying to remember a good example actually of like characters, but like Simpsons is very full of stereotypes. Like chock full of stereotypes.
Yeah, like Willie.
Yeah.
I mean,
And Willie's actually a good example.
Senior Bumblebee.
Senor Bumblebee, yeah.
Yep.
Nobody.
He,
I'm gonna admit that I actually don't know if who voices Senor Bumblebee or Willie for that example. If they have someone of that requisite background that does it, but I will say this, that like it's kind of tough to only focus on Apu, but none of these other ones. Because then you get that argument of like, well, why is Apu suddenly so much more important than all these other characters? Because they're all kind of treated with the same type of I wouldn't say disdain, but the same type of treatment that all of them receive. You know, Willie, you never see Willie do anything much. He's like moments, but he never does anything beyond being the groundskeeper. You know, Bumblebee, man, he only shows up every once in a while to be like, ay, ay, ay. You know, that's like his thing. There's nothing. He's just a super stereotype of Telemundo. Mm-hmm. So, but we have this big focus on Apu, which, you know, is interesting. And conversely, I will say that the voice actor has been above and beyond in terms of just like, hey, I voiced like 20 other people. I'm willing to drop this. You know, this is really important. It's important enough for me to not do this anymore if so inclined. So like basically my point here is with you guys is what is the difference here? Why does Apu get this special treatment? Why does Apu get this but none of the other ones? Like, how do you guys feel about that?
I feel like if this is the case and they're actually just going to write him off, this is just sweeping the problem under the rug. It would be so, like it's just some. It would be it will be a lot more work for Fox to try to figure out a way to alter the character. But if they really cared about the fan base like they claim to, they wouldn't just be like, "Oh, he doesn't exist anymore. He's gone." Or at least kill him off. At least, yeah, at least give him a death befitting of his popularity.
Well, right, but my point being is, my question was, how do you feel that he compares to the other
Oh,
characters,
oh,
the other
Apu.
character stereotypes? Like, why is he so much more important than anyone else who has gone through that?
I mean, Apu has evolved from just being a walking stereotype of Southeast Asian culture. He has become a prominent figure in the mythos of the Simpsons. He has had some really beautiful story arcs, if, for lack of a better adjective.
But so
You know,
I think I don't know that you're getting what Lewis is asking.
oh, sorry.
Is Apu getting special treatment as opposed to Senior Bumblebee, or as
Oh,
opposed to what's Tony
Willie,
or
uh,
Willie,
Fat Tony
Fat
is a
Tony, or
great stereotype.
because
yeah,
they are all
I,
stereotypes. They are all stereotypes
yeah.
of certain ethnicities. Um, the
He might
fact
be getting,
that sorry, go ahead.
yeah, he might be getting, yeah, I think he might be getting special treatment because this is just being brought to the forefront. I mean, we don't know. As far as I know, there haven't been other cases where that have of like misrepresentation to this degree. Like it's like you said, Senior Bumblebee's only been like in a handful of episodes.
But
I mean, yes, he's voiced Hank.
so if
He's
that's the
voiced by Hank.
case, if let's assume that the Latin community decides that they find Senior Bumblebee incredibly offensive, either is Senior Bumblebee gone next, or are they going to just replace whoever's doing the voice with an actual Latin voice actor, which they're obviously not doing with Apu? I get Lewis's point. Um, of all of the characters that I can think of that are stereotypes of a certain ethnicity, Apu is well, that's not entirely true. I was going to say Apu is one of the few of color, but and again, he's not a very important character, but the manager of the Chinese restaurant, which is voiced by George Takei, is clearly a stereotype. Um, but again, is there no problem with that because one, he's a minor character like Senior Bumblebee, or who only appears once a season, if that, or two, because in this case he actually is voiced by an Asian actor. Um, I don't know. I get the question. I guess the implication of the question is it overreach? Is this one of those moments where the guys who piss and moan about SJWs might be right?
Yeah, I think, I mean, because like I looked it up, and Bumblebee Man is voiced by Hank Azaria.
Azaria, yeah.
Yeah,
Azaria. He's voiced by him. That mm, it's so why this?
Yeah.
I and again, it's not a diversity thing that I'm having a problem with. I'm having with we're focusing a lot on Apu, but we seem to just ignore all the other ones. Like, when, at what point do we just focus on this one issue and then not bring voice to any of these others? Do we not bring voice to any of it and just recognize that Simpsons tend to do a lot of these stereotypes, and then they play with these tropes a lot of different ways? Or is it just because it's a white actor that's the problem? Which then, as I said, Bumblebee Man also has a white actor. Uh, the guy who does Apu also does the voice for groundskeeper Willie. So there's a lot here to go into and break apart, which is difficult because it a lot of people, especially like social justice people, want everything to be above broad and no discussion. This is how it is. This is what needs to be done. Let's fix this. But when you're only putting duct tape on the hull of the boat, then eventually that boat is gonna find a way to sink. Like if you don't fix the whole ship, it's gonna find a way to sink.
On this
So,
case, in this case, they're putting duct tape over a boat that's riddled with holes as is.
Well, I
but
think that
it's intentionally made to be that way though. Is the thing is like a lot of the stereotypes that they use on the Simpsons is often meant to subvert those very stereotypes. Like Fat
But I
Tony.
mean more in the sense that of quality, the quality of the show in recent years.
well, yeah, that's the quality of the show has gone down in recent seasons, but I don't think that's. I don't think that would have any effect on the decision making process here, and I don't think it really plays into the discussion. Uh, Unless you're saying because the show has lost quality, it doesn't matter. Uh, which
That's
I
probably why they don't care. That's probably why they don't care. Honestly, in my opinion, I mean, if they really cared that much about this, they would have noticed this a long time ago. But they don't. They're just they're
Well,
doing
see,
it to their own asses. And
that's another thing too. Is that people have pointed out that I've seen because I looked at the argument of why I looked at the people who are against the whole changing of Apu and things. So I'm voicing their thought right now, but and part of their thing is Simpsons has been on for 30 seasons, a long time in TV history. So in this long timeline here, the most recent part of it is when we started complaining about Apu, but we've had this whole gap where no one, I'm sure there's always somebody who's brought it up, there's always someone,
yeah,
but they weren't loud, but suddenly we're loud here. And conversely, that connects with social media because anything in social media can be loud.
yeah,
But
but
like,
if you're using that, I don't know that you're using the argument that because it happened before, it's okay.
no, I'm not.
Okay.
I'm just stating that one of the arguments that people have made is the fact that 30 seasons, now we're complaining. It's not that it's okay in the past. It wasn't nothing. Bad things in the past aren't okay in the future or in reverse. But where were the people that were complaining in the past? Why is it such a big issue now?
Yeah, but
Is it because
that's
is it because of the documentary? And if so, because I watched part of it, I didn't get a chance to finish it, but it was a really good and well involved documentary from the parts I've seen so far. He makes a lot of valid points there, but again, where is the argument for this? It should have been an argument for years, not an argument that's most recent.
yeah, but that's again that's kind of aside the point. Yes, it should have been an argument for years. It wasn't. Now it is. Whether it was not in the past has absolutely no bearing on the fact that it is now. You know, unless you are trying to make a point that the fact that it is so recent lessens its validity, and I don't think you're doing that. So that's if you want to take that as a separate thing and say, hey, let's go yell at the people who never brought this up before or never realized it was a problem. Sure, that's
Well, actually, like I said, I'm stating what the other side has said
oh,
about
okay,
this.
all right.
It's not my opinion. It's what they've said, what I've read that they've said. Because that's always the argument for people who are against any diversity changes or anything like that. Why is everybody complaining now versus then?
Right.
Nobody complained then, and the problem existed then. It's like your house on fire for 20 years, and now suddenly you want to put it out.
Yeah. Or hey, slavery for 250 years.
yeah.
I honestly, unless these people, the producers of the show and the creative people behind the show, tell us why this decision is being made, we won't know. We can speculate until the cows come home.
I think maybe they haven't said anything. They haven't, but they have. Because there's a recent episode with Marge and Lisa where Lisa, being the most liberal person in all the show, who has every issue with any diversity, any problem like that, was the person who's listening to Marge tell her, well, things change, but not, we don't want things to change fast. We want, everything to change slow, and some things don't need a change at all. And they made a very pointed gesture of having her look at Apu's picture when they were saying that, which I feel that's pretty telling of where they sit on this.
I'm trying to think. So apparently the person who, a producer named Adi Shankar, was the person who made this statement. And as of yesterday, the Simpsons executive producer Al Jean said in a tweet that Adi Shankar is not a producer of The Simpsons. I wish him the best, but he does not speak for our show. However, that is not a denial of the fact that he's been written out of the show.
Yeah, I mean, from the articles I've read, they're not writing him out so much as quietly walking him out the side door, and he just won't show up in anything. They're not gonna kill him; he's just not there anymore.
Well, no, I hope that's not the case, because that's comedy gold. If you're going to do it that way, make the comedy gold out of it. The guy's got 47 kids or whatever. I can't remember what the non-tuplets.
He has a lot of kids.
He has a lot of kids. And now that it's been around, I get, Bart is still 8, but, so I assume his kids are still infants. But, maybe one of them takes over the store. Or maybe not. Or maybe the store gets sold. Maybe it gets robbed. Maybe, there's so many things you could do here.
Maybe it explodes.
The script that had been worked on, that had been suggested as an alternative to fixing the diversity issue of Apu, basically turned him from just someone who manages the store to a thriving businessman who becomes like a pillar of his community. And I think that's reasonably good idea, depending on how. I didn't read the script. I don't know if it's available online, so I can't tell how far they went with it. But it seems to get a lot of check marks from a lot of people who think it's a great idea.
He's not the manager. He owns the Quickie Mart. He's already a thriving businessman. He's they've had, like the episodes about his family, they've had all sorts of wonderful full episodes that deal with, a great amount of depth of his background. He's a really well fleshed out character that is an important part of Springfield.
But the thing is he is the owner of the store, but it's also a stereotype that his type of race always manages those stores. And in the script, from what I gleaned, from what I saw talked about, is it was to give him a different business, and or have him have that store and then other businesses on top of that to showcase that he's branching out more, he's doing more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would watch that. I think it sounds interesting. I don't know that it needs to happen. I don't know that having him disappear needs to happen. And I'm just going to really quickly, Heavenly Gamer, we miss Bonnie in Springtrap too, but Nightmare Bonnie is still around, and you will see more of Nightmare Bonnie. I will guarantee you that. I don't know where to land on this, frankly, folks. I don't want Apu to disappear. I would be fine with Hank Azaria not doing the voice and bringing in an Indian or South Asian actor, but apparently that's not what's going to happen, at least based on the rumors. So you're right. This is very complicated, and I don't think we can get any kind of a resolution of how this should have been handled or should be handled. One, because nobody's confirming that it's happened yet or going to happen.
Absolutely, and you guys out in the chat world, we'd love to hear from you. See what your take on this is. How do you feel about this situation? Do you care? Do you not care? Does Apu just be a fictional character for you? Does it mean so much more? We'd love to hear those comments from you guys, just to get an understanding of how you guys feel about these topics that we bring up.
We would, except we've got 2 minutes left in the show, so we're going to call this particular topic done at the moment, because I know that Byron has a could we please, could we not. So I'll let you go first, and then Lewis, if you have one, fire away. Byron?
All right. My could we not is um. Well, could we not have celebrities trying to use their privilege to spew bootstrap rhetoric and other and dismissive dismissive ideologies out there out out there for the world to be party to.
All right, you gonna explain that, or
Yes, yeah, I am. So this is kind of a two-parter. Lindsey Sterling, violin girl who got big off of doing Zelda covers on her violin. An old tweet of hers just resurfaced, basically slamming anyone that was involved with the Women's March 2017. And it's gotten a lot of traction. It a lot of people are saying one thing or the other about it. I'm not happy. Um, and then on top of that, this past week she posted another tweet basically saying like talking about victim mentalities and talking about how you basically have to dust yourself off and pick yourself up by the bootstrap in order to be successful in this world, and that's all in your mind. And that's a funny thing for someone who is touring the world and doing what she loves for a living to be saying. And it's even more funnier how like when I pointed that out myself on her Twitter account, the white knights came out of the woodwork and start telling me that I'm wrong and that she's not privileged. But what do I know? I'm just a guy.
whatever you want to take on that. If you go back and look at the tweet, folks, look at it. It's really absolutely blind. It's just, and she doubled down on that tweet. She didn't step back from it and say, "Oh no, I didn't mean this." She did all of the bootstrapping stuff that Byron was talking about within the last couple of days once the tweet surfaced. It's kind of a shame to see that somebody that everybody loved as a performer having such a crappy view of the world. But there it is.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I'm kind of not surprised because she's very big into her faith. Unfortunately, she's almost to the point of blind faith with her mentality. With her mentality, so there you go.
All right. Before we move on to another one, Heavenly Gamer, I honestly think they should keep Apu how he is. I would like to keep him on the show. I have no problem with Azaria continuing to use his voice. I also have no problem with, as Azaria said himself, somebody else coming in and doing it, who is in fact a person of Indian or South Asian descent. Lewis, do you have a could we please or could we not?
Uh, no, not really. I just my usual message of people be good to each other. Things are getting harder nowadays. There's a lot of fights that we have. Be kind. I know sometimes we don't want to be kind. Sometimes we just want to isolate ourselves, stare at our phones all day with our earbuds in, and I'm not saying that's a terrible thing to do, but sometimes when you see that someone needs help, help them. Do what you can. If only because that person, you might be the one person that day, that week, that month that made the difference in that person's life.
Absolutely. So, folks, that's it. That's it for our show this week. We will probably be on again Tuesday next week because I kind of like this Tuesday night thing for some reason. It seems to fit better into scheduling. Remember to subscribe to our channel, and as Lewis said, and I forgot last week, to get the notifications of when this show goes on or when anything happens, yes, click that bell. Ding that bell, as they like to say. I don't like to say that because you're clicking a button that looks like a bell. But anyway, click that bell and get those notifications. So, for Byron D0, the Weeb Trash Can Podcast, for Louis Correa, Crash the Photos, Crash Stampede, Crash Override, I am Rodney Brown, first-person shooter and editor-in-chief at Nerd Caliber. Thank you for tuning in to Nerd Week Live this week, and we will see you again next week. Bye bye.
I